Get off HOA property. Now. That was the first thing Karen Sutherland ever said to me. Barked it straight into my face from my own porch like she'd been waiting her whole life for someone to challenge. 3 board members stood behind her like backup, each gripping clipboards like they were weapons. Her voice carried down the still suburban street. Curtains twitched. Someone's dog went quiet. The air felt too clean, too bright. Like the calm before a storm no one else could see. Welcome back to Tomato Tales, where real stories come with real chaos. If you love tales about power trips, justice, and a bit of neighborhood drama, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss what happens next. Now, let's get back to it. I'd spent that morning unpacking boxes, settling into the first house I'd ever owned outright. 2 stories, solid fence, quiet street. I'd checked everything before closing. Deed, survey, county records. All of it showed the same thing. My property sat 50 feet outside the HOA boundary. No gray areas. No loopholes. But Karen didn't knock like someone uncertain. She hammered on the door like she was issuing a command. When I finally answered, screen door still latched. She was already mid-lecture. "You're in violation of Section 7.3 of the HOA covenant," she announced, shoving a clipboard toward me. "I'm not in your HOA," I said. Her smile was tight, the kind you see on people who mistake confidence for authority. "I'm the president of Meadowbrook Heights. All homes within this radius are under our governance. That includes yours." I stayed calm. I checked the property lines myself. "I'm outside your jurisdiction." She adjusted her papers. No seal, no notary stamp, nothing official. "Paperwork can be wrong," she said. "That's why people like me keep communities in line." I could almost feel the condescension dripping off her words. "If you've got proof," I said, "I'll look at it." "But my deed says otherwise." Her expression hardened. "You'll see. You've got 48 hours to register with the HOA or face enforcement action." "What kind of enforcement?" She listed them like a prosecutor reading charges. Fence height, mailbox style, where I parked my truck. Every violation came with a $500 a day fine. That's $10 to $500 by Monday. Karen smiled again, that slow, self-satisfied grin. "Trust me," she said. "The law's on our side." I watched her walk away, snapping photos of my fence and my yard like she owned them. She thought this was over. She had no idea. It was just the opening move. Because in 48 hours, the real war for my front porch was about to begin. And trust me, you'll want to subscribe to Tomato Tales before you see how this HOA showdown explodes. Monday morning came with a sound I wasn't expecting. Paper rustling. Against my front door, a yellow envelope was taped right in the center. No postage, no logo, just my name scrawled across it in aggressive black marker. Inside, 7 alleged violations, each one paired with a $500 per day fine. Total due, $2,500, and a bold red header screaming official notice of violation. The paper looked official, at a glance. But I've worked in documentation long enough to spot fakes. The seal was a cheap graphic lifted from a free template site. The so-called Community Standards Act of 2019 they cited didn't exist. Not in county law, not in state archives, nowhere. Karen had printed her name at the bottom next to President. No signature, no attorney reference, no legal authority. That wasn't a notice. It was a bluff wrapped in clip art. By the time I finished my first cup of coffee, I'd already scanned every page, photographed it all, and logged the evidence. But what really told me this wasn't about rules, it was about control, came an hour later. I logged onto the neighborhood social page, Meadowbrook Community Watch. Normally it was just lost pet posts and people complaining about Amazon drivers. But at the top of the feed sat a new post, Karen Sutherland. The photo? My house, my truck. A fenced-out caption. New resident refuses to follow HOA standards. disrespecting the community we've worked so hard to build. 43 comments already, most siding with her. People like that ruin neighborhoods. HOA rules exist for a reason. He should move if he doesn't like it. It was a digital lynch mob, fast, loud, and misinformed, but 2 comments stood out. One from an older woman named Lenore Pritchard. Are we sure his house is even in the HOA? I thought the boundary ended. Deleted within minutes. The second was from a blank account. Karen did this to the Johnsons too. They had to move. That one stayed, hanging like a whisper no one wanted to repeat. I took screenshots of everything before any of it disappeared. Every word, every timestamp. Because this wasn't just harassment. It was the start of something much bigger. Karen didn't want compliance. She wanted submission, and she just declared war online. But what she didn't know was that I was already documenting her every move. So if you're ready to see how this suburban showdown spirals out of control, make sure to subscribe to Tomato Tales. Because Karen's intimidation turns physical, I couldn't stop thinking about that deleted comment. The one from Lenore Pritchard, gone within minutes, but still sitting in my browser cache like a breadcrumb. I decided to follow it. Her address was just across the street. A small blue house with window boxes spilling over with flowers. The kind of place that felt out of time. I knocked twice. She opened the door halfway, cautious, eyes sharp behind wire-rimmed glasses. "You're the new neighbor," she said. Not a question. Just quiet resignation. I introduced myself and mentioned her comment on the community page. She hesitated, then sighed, glancing over my shoulder as if Karen herself might materialize. "You shouldn't have seen that," she murmured. Karen doesn't like when people question her. That sentence said everything. Inside, her living room smelled like cinnamon and old wood. A cat dozed on the back of the couch. She lowered her voice. There was another family at the Johnsons. Bought near the boundary 2 years ago. Karen went after them the same way she's going after you. Fines, threats, humiliation online. They fought it for months, but she bled them dry. They sold and left. I listened while she talked and about fake inspectors, fees that vanished from HOA ledgers, neighbors who'd paid to stay out of trouble. She calls it keeping standards, Lenore said, but it's just control. She tried to get the city to expand the HOA once. They told her no. So now she just pretends the boundary is wherever she says it is. Her voice trembled, not with fear, but with exhaustion. I thanked her and walked home. The sun low, shadows stretching across the perfect lawns of a neighborhood built on quiet compliance. That night, I started digging. County maps, public court records, old HOA filings. Everything backed up what Lenore said. My house was clearly outside the HOA. Karen had filed 3 lawsuits in the past 5 years, all dismissed. She'd even been warned once for harassment. I built a folder on my laptop labeled Sutherland Case and started filling it. Timestamps, screenshots, the fake violation notice, the social media smear, even the way her posts vanished when people asked the wrong questions. Karen was playing checkers. I was building a chessboard. She thought she was tightening control. What she didn't realize was that every move she made was another piece of evidence falling neatly into place. Because the next time Karen stepped onto my property, she wouldn't just be crossing a line. She'd be walking straight into a documented trap. Make sure to subscribe to Tomato Tales so you don't miss when Karen's intimidation turns into full-blown trespass, and the cameras start rolling. By Wednesday afternoon, the neighborhood looked peaceful again. Sunlight spilling over trimmed lawns, sprinklers hissing in rhythm. But peace in Meadowbrook Heights never lasted long. When I pulled into my driveway at 4 p.m., the first thing I noticed was the gate, unlocked, wide open. And parked halfway on my grass was Karen Sutherland's silver SUV. 2 men stood beside her. Tape measures stretched across my fence while Karen pointed like a director on set. One held a clipboard, the other a camera with a lens big enough to film a documentary. I hit record on my phone and walked toward them, steady and silent. "What exactly are you doing on my property?" I asked. Karen turned, her smile as polished as ever. "Routine inspection," she said. "Authorized by the HOA." "Authorized by whom?" I pressed. One of the men flashed a laminated badge. The word inspector was printed in bold, but there was no county seal, no license number. Just plastic pretending to be power. "I need official ID," I said. "County-issued credentials." Karen stepped between us, her tone dripping authority she didn't have. "They're certified. That's all you need to know." I kept recording every word, every twitch. "This is private property," I said. "You're trespassing." Karen's expression stiffened. "We have the county's approval," she said. "Your fence height poses a safety risk." I raised an eyebrow. "Which department signed off on that?" She waved the question away. "That's confidential." It was the same tactic as before. Vague threats wrapped in fake paperwork. She was bluffing, hoping intimidation would do what logic couldn't. "You have 60 seconds to leave," I said quietly. "Or I'm calling the sheriff." Her jaw flexed. "Call them," she snapped. "They know who I am, so I did," the dispatcher answered. I gave my address, described 3 trespassers impersonating officials, 8-minute ETA. Karen started taking photos of me while shouting for the recording. "This man's threatening us. He's hostile!" I didn't move, didn't raise my voice. Just let the footage roll. The fake inspectors glanced at each other, panic flickering. One muttered something and backed toward the gate. Karen hissed at him to stay. He didn't. They both left in a white van without logos. When the patrol cars arrived, Officers Callahan and Briggs stepped out. Karen's tone changed instantly, soft, helpless, victim sweet. "Thank goodness you're here," she said. "He attacked us during a lawful inspection." Callahan's eyes swept the scene. Open gate, tire tracks, my ID in hand. "Ma'am," he said, "do you have written permission from the homeowner to be here?" Karen blinked. "We have HOA authority." "That's not permission," Callahan cut her off. "Without consent, you're trespassing." Her mouth opened, closed. He turned to me. "You want to press charges?" I looked at her, the trembling mask barely hiding fury. "Not yet," I thought. "Just document it," I said. "Case number and report." He nodded, handed me the card. Karen was ordered off my property. She left, that same cold smile flashing through her windshield as if she still believed she was winning. But the game had changed. I had video, witnesses, timestamps, truth sealed tighter than her clipboard. Because the next time Karen showed up, she wouldn't just be caught lying. She'd be caught breaking the law. Make sure you're subscribed to Tomato Tales, because this HOA nightmare turns criminal, and the trap finally starts to close. The next few days were quiet. Too quiet. Karen hadn't driven by. No envelopes. No social media posts. The neighborhood felt almost normal again, like the calm after a storm that isn't really over, just gathering strength behind the clouds. I spent that weekend in the county law library, pulled case files, dug through rulings, and found 3 lawsuits where HOAs had tried to enforce rules beyond their boundaries. Every single one had lost and paid damages. The pattern was clear. HOAs have no authority outside their borders. I wasn't just defending my house anymore. I was preparing an ambush with evidence. By Sunday night, my desk looked like a crime lab. Folders labeled, timestamps synced, photos printed, and a digital backup saved to the cloud. Every piece of Karen's harassment was archived and organized. I was building a record she couldn't erase. Then Monday morning, the alert came. 03 a.m. Motion detected at the front door. I opened the camera feed. A person in a dark jacket walked up, taped something to my door, and left. By the time I stepped outside, they were gone. Another envelope. Thick, white, stamped with a seal that looked almost real. Office of County Code Enforcement. The heading read, Notice of Imminent Property Seizure. The letter claimed my property violated 12 county codes and demanded a $25,000 compliance bond within 48 hours, or the county would seize my home. It was signed by Director Sarah Sutherland, Karen's last name. I didn't even need to check to know it was fake, but I called the real county code enforcement office anyway. They laughed. The tired kind of laugh people make when they've seen too much nonsense. There's no one named Sarah Sutherland here, the woman said. And we don't tape notices to doors. We send certified mail only. That's forgery, sir. Call the sheriff. I checked my cameras again, frame by frame, zoomed in. There she was, Karen, wearing gloves, glancing at the camera like she thought no one was watching. This time she wasn't just pretending to have authority. She was impersonating the government. At 10 a.m., she came back with 4 people wearing yellow safety vests labeled Enforcement, clipboards, cameras, measuring tapes, county inspection. She barked. Mandatory compliance review. I hit record again. Funny, I said. The real county says they have no record of this inspection. And no one named Sutherland on their staff. Her jaw tightened. Different department, she said. Regional compliance. Address. Not relevant. Statute authorizing entry. Confidential. She was unraveling, improvising. Her words cracking under their own weight. You need to leave, I said evenly, or I'm calling the sheriff. Again. Karen smirked. Go ahead. I already called them. They're coming to escort you off our property. Her inspectors froze. One looked like he wanted to melt into the grass. The van engine started before I finished dialing. By the time dispatch confirmed officers were en route, the yellow vests had disappeared. Karen stayed, still recording, still pretending. The difference was, this time she'd crossed from bluff to felony. Because when the sheriff arrived, Karen wasn't just facing a homeowner. She was about to meet the law she'd been faking. Don't miss where justice starts knocking back. And make sure you're subscribed to Tomato Tales so you don't miss what happens next. When Karen couldn't fool the sheriff, she tried something worse. She turned the neighborhood against me. It started with flyers, dozens of them printed on bright orange paper, taped to mailboxes and pinned on bulletin boards. Warning, non-compliant resident. Beneath that, a grainy photo of my house, zoomed in, distorted, with fake violations listed underneath. She'd even added a quote, refuses to cooperate with community safety measures. By that evening, people I used to wave to stopped making eye contact. Kids who used to ride their bikes past my fence turned around halfway down the block. Someone even keyed my truck. One long, deliberate scratch from headlight to tailgate. It wasn't just about property anymore. It was isolation. I kept recording. Every flyer, every message, every whisper that made its way back to me. I wasn't angry. I was patient. Because when people weaponize lies, the truth hits twice as hard. 2 nights later, at 1 a.m., motion sensors lit up. My cameras caught 3 figures sneaking along the fence line. Hoodies up, flashlights off. One sprayed something on the side of my house. When I stepped outside, they bolted, but not before I caught the message in dripping black paint. HOA or out. That was it. The next morning, I filed a police report for vandalism, trespassing, and harassment, and handed over copies of every video, post, and fake letter. Detective Rowe promised to escalate it, but I didn't stop there. I created a public page, meadowbrooktruth.com. I uploaded the footage, every forgery, every post Karen deleted, every second of her inspection. Within hours, the views started climbing. Comments poured in from other neighborhoods. She did this to us too. Our HOA president tried the same stunt. Finally, someone standing up. By noon, the link had spread to the entire community chat. People who once sided with her started questioning everything. That evening, for the first time since moving in, someone knocked on my door, gently. It was Lenore Pritchard again, holding a folder. "She's panicking," Lenore said quietly. "Karen's calling an emergency HOA meeting tomorrow. She says you're spreading defamation." I smiled. "Perfect. Let's give them the truth, in high definition. Because this time I wasn't the one on trial. Tomorrow night, the entire neighborhood will see exactly who their president really is. And you won't believe how fast power collapses when it's built on lies." By Thursday evening, the community hall parking lot was packed. SUVs lined the street, porch lights flickered on, and the air buzzed with the kind of tension you can feel before it breaks. Inside, folding chairs filled every inch of the room. A banner reading "Emergency HOA Assembly," mandatory attendance, hung crookedly over the podium. At the front, like a queen defending her crumbling kingdom, sat Karen Sutherland, clipboard ready, smile fixed, eyes cold. As I stepped through the door, conversations hushed. You could tell who stood with her and who wasn't sure anymore. She spotted me instantly. "Well, well," she said into the microphone, voice echoing. "The man of the hour. I trust you're here to apologize for your misinformation?" I didn't answer. I set a small projector on the table, connected my laptop, and let the first video play. Karen herself, taping that forged county notice to my door. The room went still. Then came the next clip, her fake inspection, shouting about fence height while her inspectors scrambled out of frame. Gasps rippled through the crowd. I clicked through each clip methodically. Every lie, every fake document, every screenshot of her deleted posts. By the time I reached the vandalism footage, her face had gone pale. "Where did you get those videos?" She snapped. "They're mine," I said. "Recorded legally on my property, the one outside your jurisdiction." A man in the front row stood. "Karen, is this true? You told us the county was involved," she stammered. "Those were early drafts, misunderstandings." Another neighbor raised her phone. "Then why does the county website list our HOA under investigation?" Karen's voice wavered. "That's temporary." People began murmuring, phones lighting up as they checked the site for themselves. Someone read aloud a notice posted that afternoon. "The Meadowbrook Heights HOA is under legal review, following reports of forgery and harassment." I didn't have to say another word. Row had moved faster than I expected. Karen's board members shifted in their seats, eyes avoiding hers. One of them stood and walked out. Another whispered, "We're done," and followed. Karen gripped the microphone like it was the last thread holding her world together. "You're ruining this community," she shouted. "You think you're the hero? You're a problem." "No," I said quietly. "I'm just not afraid of bullies." The audience applauded, slow at first, then louder, until her voice drowned beneath it. For the first time since I'd met her, Karen didn't have a comeback. "But if you think that meeting ended her reign, think again, because people like Karen never surrender. They implode." The morning after the HOA meeting, Meadowbrook Heights felt different. The street was quieter, lighter, like someone had finally lifted a weight that had been pressing down for years. But peace never lasts long when someone like Karen's cornered. By noon, new flyers appeared, black and white this time, rushed smeared by printer ink. Each one screamed defamation alert across the top. She doubled down, accusing me of falsifying evidence, claiming my videos were digitally altered and maliciously edited to deceive the public. It was desperation in ink form. That same afternoon, Detective Rowe called. "You'll want to hear this," he said. Apparently, after the meeting, Karen had marched straight into the county office, waving her forged papers again. trying to file a complaint against me for unauthorized property ownership. Security escorted her out when she refused to leave. The county clerk had filed an official fraud complaint against her that morning, forgery, harassment, impersonation of an official. Rose sighed through the phone. She's unraveling. We're executing a search warrant for her home and HOA records tomorrow. I thanked him and hung up, but I couldn't shake the image of her sitting in that empty community hall, clutching her clipboard like it was armor. That evening, I received a message request from an anonymous account. Just one sentence: she's burning documents. I checked my cameras again. Sure enough, around midnight her backyard light flicked on. Through the zoom lens, I saw her silhouette hunched over a metal fire pit, tossing in folder after folder. The flames danced higher with every page. I hit record again. Another file added to the folder marked Sutherland evidence. The next day, the police showed up at her door. No flashing lights, no shouting, just quiet authority. I watched from across the street as Detective Rose spoke to her. She tried to smile, then suddenly started yelling. Her voice echoed down the block. You can't do this. This is my community. Roe didn't raise his voice. He just held up a piece of paper, the warrant, sick, and said, not anymore. They escorted her to the cruiser without cuffs, but the scene said everything. The neighbors who once feared her now stood outside watching, whispering. The empire she built on fake power had turned to ash, just like the papers in her fire pit. But even after that, the story wasn't over, because what the investigators found in her HOA files would shock the entire neighborhood and expose years of hidden corruption. Don't miss where the truth finally comes out, and make sure you're subscribed to Tomato Tales. The finale is about to blow this story wide open. The news broke 3 days later. It started with a small headline on the county site. Meadowbrook Heights HOA under criminal review. By noon, every local outlet had picked it up. The report detailed everything: the forged letters, the fake inspections, and the misuse of HOA funds that went back nearly 6 years. Karen hadn't just targeted me. She'd been quietly siphoning administrative fees into a private account, fining residents for made-up violations, and threatening anyone who questioned her authority. Detective Rowe called that evening. You did more than stop harassment, he said. You uncovered an embezzlement case. I didn't know whether to laugh or just exhale. For the first time in months, the tension left my chest like a weight I hadn't realized I'd been carrying. The county dissolved her HOA board within 48 hours. Karen was charged with forgery, fraud, and impersonation of a public official. And later, embezzlement. She took a plea deal to avoid prison, but was banned from serving on any HOA or community board ever again. The same week, the neighborhood gathered for a new vote, this time without her name anywhere on the ballot. Lenore was elected interim president unanimously. Her first motion? No property outside official HOA lines shall ever be subject to HOA control. It passed with applause. When it was my turn to speak, I kept it simple. I didn't move here to fight anyone, I said. I just wanted peace, the kind that doesn't come with paperwork and power trips. People smiled. Some apologized. A few even offered to help repaint the fence that Karen's crew had vandalized. Later that night, I walked out onto my porch. The air was calm again, still and honest. No fake letters taped to my door. No SUV idling at the curb, just quiet. The kind I'd fought for. I opened my phone, scrolled through the folder labeled Sutherland case, and finally hit delete. It was over, or so I thought. A few weeks later, a new envelope arrived. No seal, no threats. Just one sheet of paper. No words. Just a single line drawn in red ink across the page. A reminder, maybe, that some people never really learn. I smiled anyway. Not today, Karen, I said to myself and dropped it straight into the shredder. Because if there's one thing I've learned, power without truth always collapses. And here on Tomato Tales, there's always another story where karma catches up. Hit that subscribe button, because the next tale might just be about your neighborhood. A month after Karen's fall, Meadowbrook Heights felt almost unfamiliar, in the best way. No patrol-like HOA drives, no late-night knocks pretending to be inspections. The neighborhood that once lived in fear finally exhaled. People started greeting each other again. Kids rode bikes past my fence like nothing had ever happened. And for the first time since moving here, I didn't look over my shoulder before mowing my lawn. But peace has a strange sound when you've lived in chaos too long. Every creak in the gate or flicker of a porch light made me half expect another forged letter, another confrontation. Old instincts die slow. Then one morning I saw something unexpected. A small moving truck parked outside Karen's old house. The blinds were gone. The door hung open. A young couple was carrying boxes inside, smiling like people do when they think the world's simple again. The house had been foreclosed and resold quietly. Karen had moved to another town, somewhere 3 counties over. Word was she'd pleaded down her charges. Probation, restitution, community service. The headlines faded, and so did she, but her name stuck around like a ghost. At every HOA workshop or town meeting, someone would mention the Sutherland incident, a cautionary tale of what happens when authority goes unchecked. I didn't feel vindictive. If anything, I felt tired. Fighting back hadn't been about revenge. It was about boundaries, literal and moral. A week later, I got an envelope in the mail, official seal, county letterhead. My stomach tensed until I saw the sender, Office of Code Compliance. Inside was a simple note. Your documentation and recordings were used in a training program for identifying HOA overreach and fraudulent enforcement. Thank you for your cooperation. That one hit harder than any courtroom win, because somewhere, a county official was teaching new inspectors what not to become, and my story had become a warning that mattered. That night, I uploaded the final video update to Tomato Tales, the last chapter of the Karen saga. Within hours, the comments section exploded. People sharing their own HOA horror stories, neighbors realizing they weren't alone. It felt less like closure, and more like a community finding its voice. But just when I thought the story was over, something unexpected happened. A new neighbor moved in next door. And let's just say the welcome wasn't exactly normal. I thought peace had finally found me. No more forged letters, no HOA drama. Just quiet mornings, coffee on the porch, and a house that finally felt like home. Then one evening, while watering the lawn, I noticed the moving van next door had returned. Not the new couple. Someone else. A sleek black SUV idled by the curb. A woman stepped out. Mid-40s, sharp blazer, phone in hand, moving with purpose. Not the kind of person who asks for help unloading boxes. I waved politely. She gave me a quick nod, then disappeared inside. No conversation. No smile. By the next morning, her house was already spotless. Curtains up. Garden trimmed. New mailbox installed. Efficient. Almost too efficient. Then, around noon, I found an envelope on my doorstep. Plain white. No stamp, no handwriting. Just one typed line on the front. Community compliance reminder. I froze. Inside, a printed note. Hello, neighbor. I've been asked to review property standards for our shared area. I'll be in touch soon. No signature. No organization listed, my first thought. Karen. But she was gone. Under probation, barred from any HOA position. This couldn't be her. Still, something about it felt off. The phrasing, the tone. That same smug undertone hidden behind politeness. I checked my security footage again. There it was. The SUV. The woman walking up my driveway, slipping the note under the mat, looking directly into the camera before walking away. And smiling. That night, I looked up the property record. The new owner's name was Alexis Whitmore. No online presence, no social accounts, no public records except a P.O. box and a recent purchase of Karen's old address. It could have been coincidence. Could have been nothing. But the timing felt too perfect, especially when I noticed something else. The realtor who sold her the house was the same one who'd handled Karen's original purchase years ago. I decided to keep quiet, watch, wait, because sometimes the storm doesn't end. It just changes shape. Something tells me Alexis didn't just buy Karen's house. She inherited her grudge. And trust me, you're going to want to see what happens next. For a few days, I told myself it was nothing. Just another overly organized neighbor. Clipboard type, obsessed with rules. But deep down, I felt that familiar static in the air. The kind that buzzes before a storm. Alexis kept to herself, but not quietly. She trimmed the hedges on my side of the property line, measured fence posts, took photos of my driveway from her phone. Subtle, but deliberate. When I asked if everything was okay, she smiled in that rehearsed Karen-style way. "Oh, perfectly fine," she said. "Just making sure everything stays in order around here." That phrase, "in order," hit like déjà vu. That night I started digging again. Property records, social media scraps, real estate transfers. There wasn't much, but one small link caught my eye. Her purchase paperwork listed a co-signer, Karen Sutherland. Karen and I double-checked the date, 2 weeks before her plea deal. Alexis hadn't just bought Karen's house. She'd been placed there, a proxy, a stand-in, a quiet continuation of Karen's crusade. I sat back in my chair, staring at the name on the screen. Was it revenge? Was Karen trying to reclaim the neighborhood through someone else? Or was this just her way of reminding me she still had reach, even without power? The next morning, I walked out to grab the mail. Alexis was already outside, pruning flowers that weren't hers. "Morning," I said evenly. She looked up, smiled. "Lovely day, isn't it? Oh, by the way, I noticed your mailbox paint is slightly chipped. We might want to fix that. Can't have the street looking unkempt." There it was. The echo of the empire Karen once ruled. I smiled. "Don't worry," I said. "I keep everything documented." Her smile froze, just a flicker, before she turned back to her shears. Later that night, I installed 2 new cameras, one facing her driveway, one at my front gate. Not because I was afraid, but because I'd learned something important. Peace doesn't mean lowering your guard. It means keeping your proof ready. A week passed. The cameras caught nothing unusual, until one night at 2:14 a.m. Motion alert triggered. Frame by frame, I watched as a figure walked up to my fence. A woman. Same height, same stride, but wearing a baseball cap. She stopped, looked up at the camera, and whispered something I couldn't hear. Then she pointed toward Alexis's house and disappeared. When I enhanced the footage, I caught it. A faint reflection off her car window as she left. License plate. Karen S. It wasn't over, not yet. Because sometimes when you think you've closed the door on the past, it finds another way in. Here on Tomato Tales, that's where the next story begins. Hit subscribe because what comes after Karen's return will make every HOA horror story look like a fairy tale.